I know how you got here today, with a tightness in your chest, trying to keep up appearances while inside, you're just too exhausted to keep pretending. And it was exactly in this state that I entered your home right now, this very second, unannounced, without ceremony, cutting through the silence that no one else notices and touching that place in you that's been screaming for help without words. You didn't click on this video by chance. I aligned this moment myself because I saw the night you stayed awake staring into nothingness. I saw the weight you carried all alone while everyone else thought you were fine. And today, I'm telling you clearly, I didn't just see it. I stepped in. I am starting to change what you had already learned to endure in silence. This atmosphere you feel right now isn't ordinary. It's my presence reorganizing what was broken inside your home and inside of you at the same time. Something is being touched as you listen. Decisions are being made in the unseen realm, and before this day ends, you will notice signs that cannot be ignored. I am bringing answers to things you no longer knew how to ask for. If you feel that this is real, then take your stand now as someone who recognizes my voice. Type, "I receive it," in the comments. Subscribe, leave a like, and share this message with someone you love, and stay until the end. I'm still here. I entered your home today, not as someone watching from afar, but as one who walks through every room you pace in silence. I know exactly where the weight has been piling up without anyone noticing. I know the fatigue hidden behind your short answers, the breath you hold so you don't show how overwhelmed you truly are. While everyone else carries on with their routines, noticing nothing, I stopped in front of you now because something inside you has reached its breaking point. You tried to ignore it. You tried to push a little further. You tried to believe you could handle it alone. But I saw when you went silent because you didn't even have the strength to explain how you felt. I saw when you swallowed your words so you wouldn't worry the ones you love. That is why today I didn't just come to watch you, I came to intervene. This burden you're carrying isn't small, and it can no longer be treated as normal. There are areas of your life that have been closing off bit by bit, and you've been adapting to the lack of answers, the absence of movement, the constant pressure. But now, as you hear me, I am touching those exact places you had given up on changing. I am shifting thoughts that had hardened. I am reorganizing emotions that were cluttered. You might not understand it all yet, but you will realize that something has started to shift inside you. My presence doesn't show up to leave you the same. It comes to break cycles you didn't know how to end. That cycle of silent exhaustion begins to break right now. Not with noise, not with a rush, but with an internal shift that you will feel like a relief that doesn't come from the outside. I'm stripping away what was slowly suffocating you, even if no one else noticed. I know you got used to solving everything without asking for help, sustaining situations that weren't light, carrying responsibilities that piled up until they became part of your routine. Over time, you stopped noticing how much it was affecting you because you just kept going, day after day, doing what needed to be done. Even when everything inside was begging for a break, you never allowed yourself to take. That is exactly where I'm stepping in now. You weren't created to live in this constant state of wear and tear. You weren't called to exist merely by enduring the weight of things. And yet, that's what you did for so long. You endured. You stayed quiet. You kept going. No one saw what it cost you, but I saw every moment you thought it was getting too heavy. Every instant you wanted to stop, but couldn't. Now I am telling you that this pattern is being broken. What you've been sustaining alone will no longer be carried the same way. I'm redistributing that weight. I'm reorganizing what was out of order. You will notice this not just in big changes, but in small signs showing you that something has finally started to click. Because when I enter, I don't just observe, I transform what seemed permanent. Maybe you've wondered in silence why certain things took so long to change, why some answers never came, why situations repeated themselves even after so many attempts. Those questions stayed locked inside you without a clear answer, creating a kind of weariness that doesn't show on the outside but consumes you from within. Today, I am touching those very questions you couldn't resolve. The delay you faced wasn't abandonment. It was a process you couldn't see while you were living it. I know that didn't make the road any easier. I know there were moments you thought nothing was happening, that everything was at a standstill. But while you saw silence, I was organizing details you still can't fully perceive. Now that season is starting to change, not because you forced it, not because you found a solution, but because I have decreed that the cycle of waiting is over for what was already prepared. This will begin to manifest in ways you didn't expect. What was being prepared wasn't superficial, it was something that needed to be aligned before it appeared. Now you are entering a moment where what seemed stuck begins to respond. There's a part of you that got used to not expecting much, to not getting your hopes up so you wouldn't be frustrated. You lowered your expectations just to cope with reality. It was a defense mechanism you developed without realizing it, but it also distanced you from what I am still doing. While you were trying to protect yourself from pain, you ended up distancing yourself from the expectation of change. Today, I'm restoring that within you, not as a fleeting emotion, but as a reconnection with what is still alive. There are things you considered over, possibilities you archived as things that would never happen. I am telling you, not everything ended the way you thought. There are parts of your story that aren't finished yet. You will start to realize this gradually, like something that starts making sense again, something reorganizing from the inside out. When I step in, I don't just take care of what's visible. I reach what you've hidden even from yourself, and I start restoring from there. I saw how hard you tried to keep everything in order, even when there was chaos inside. I saw how you continued to be a support for others while you had no one to hold you up the same way. I saw how you held back your emotions so you wouldn't destabilize those who depended on you. This created a silent accumulation that no one noticed, but it grew inside you over time. Today, I am touching that very accumulation. You don't have to carry it alone anymore. You don't have to sustain everything without a pause, without relief, without room to breathe. I'm creating that space inside you right now. I'm opening up a place of rest that doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on my presence acting directly on you. You will notice a sense of relief, not because everything around you changed, but because your interior is being reorganized differently. This new internal state will begin to influence what's outside. When I change the inside, the outside begins to respond to that transformation. There is something you haven't fully realized yet, but it has already started to happen. A change in how you react to what used to consume you. Situations that used to steal your peace will start to lose their power. Thoughts that used to dominate your mind will start to weaken. Not because they've vanished completely, but because you are no longer in the same internal place as before. This is the direct result of my action right now. I don't just relieve what you feel. I reposition who you are in the face of what you encounter. This repositioning changes everything. It changes how you interpret, how you react, how you decide. This will have real consequences in your life. What used to paralyze you will no longer have the same effect. You will notice this in simple moments, in small decisions, in attitudes that used to be difficult, but now start to flow differently. This is a sign that something deeper has already been altered within you, even if you're still processing it bit by bit. I'm also working in areas you cannot control, situations involving other people, decisions that don't depend solely on you, environments that were misaligned. While you try to figure out how this can change, I'm already acting where you cannot reach. I'm touching conversations you haven't heard, thoughts you don't know, paths that haven't crossed yours yet. When I enter, I'm not limited to what is within your reach. I expand the field of action beyond what you can see. This means there are movements happening right now that you will only notice later, when things start to click in a way that seemed improbable before. You will look back and understand it wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't luck. It was the result of an intervention that started at this exact moment when you stopped to listen. Even if everything looks the same on the outside for now, internally, a shift is already taking place. I know there were times you thought you were all alone in this, that no one truly understood what you were carrying, that no one saw the effort you made to keep everything running. That feeling of invisibility was one of the hardest parts to bear. It's not just the weight of the situation, it's the feeling that no one notices the weight. Today, I am telling you clearly, you were never invisible to me. You never went unnoticed. Every detail was seen. Every effort was considered. Every moment of resistance was recorded. It wasn't ignored. It wasn't forgotten. Now begins a time where what was lived in silence starts to generate visible responses. Not as empty exposure, but as an alignment that brings balance, that brings a return, that brings a sense that finally something is being recognized for real, not by people, but by the results that start to appear. As all of this begins to move, there is also a preparation happening inside you to sustain what's coming. It's not just about changing circumstances, it's about ensuring you are ready to live out what is being released. That is why I am strengthening internal areas that were once fragile. I am adjusting your perception. I am expanding your capacity to handle the new. What's coming won't be just a temporary fix. It will be a change of seasons. New seasons require a different structure, a firmer foundation. That is exactly what is being built inside you right now, silently, perhaps imperceptibly in some ways, but real, constant, and progressive. You will notice that little by little you start to feel different, more stable, more aware, more prepared. And this doesn't come from you alone. It comes from what I am doing right now. So, stay attentive to what is happening inside you at this moment. This change isn't superficial. It's not temporary. It's not something that dissolves when the video ends. It is an internal milestone that initiates a new movement in your life. From here on out, you will no longer respond the same way to what used to dominate you. You will no longer carry the same way what used to overwhelm you. Something was touched. Something was adjusted. Something was repositioned. Even if the path still has stages to go, you are no longer at the same point you were before. You have been reached. You have been touched. And that changes the direction of everything that follows. I am leading you now through a deeper part, where you can no longer pretend everything is under control. There is a point inside you that has grown tired of sustaining what was never light. I know exactly where that point is. I know where your strength began to fail in silence. I know where your mind tried to keep going while your heart was already begging for rest. That is exactly where I touched you. Not harshly, but with precision, like someone reaching a wound that's been hidden for too long. You might not have even named it yet, but you feel that something inside you has been exposed, not to shame you, but to be healed. While you ignored that area, it kept influencing everything around you, your decisions, your reactions, your view of the future. Now, that begins to change. I didn't just reveal it, I began to restore it. This restoration doesn't happen on the surface, it happens at the root, the place where everything begins before it shows up. That is why you will notice changes that aren't forced or rehearsed. They are natural, like something finally finding its balance after being out of place for a long time. This will bring a different feeling, a lightness that doesn't depend on circumstances being perfect, but on you no longer being trapped in the same internal pattern as before. For a long time, you carried the responsibility of keeping everything functioning, even when it meant putting yourself aside, even when it demanded more than you could give at that moment. Over time, you adapted to this excess, as if it were normal to always live on the edge, always solving, always sustaining. This created a structure where you became indispensable to many, but invisible in your own needs. I am breaking that logic now. You weren't created to exist only for what others need. There is a part of you that needs to be restored, strengthened, and cared for. This can no longer be delayed. When you ignore this, everything around you is affected. I am reorganizing that order. I am repositioning you so that you don't just keep doing, but that you are also sustained, so that you don't just solve, but that you also receive. This will change the dynamic of your life in a way you are only beginning to realize. When I adjust the foundation, everything built upon it begins to align naturally. There are also thoughts that have repeated so many times inside you that they started to feel like absolute truth. Ideas about yourself, about what's possible, about what never changes. These internal constructions limited your vision without you noticing, creating a kind of blockage that doesn't come from the outside, but from within. Today, I am breaking those structures, not with arguments, but with revelation. When the truth reaches the right place, it undoes what was built on distorted perceptions. You will start to notice that certain certainties you had no longer make sense. Some conclusions you carried are beginning to weaken. This isn't confusion, it's liberation. You cannot move forward carrying a limited vision of yourself. I am expanding that vision now. I am showing you that there is more. You are not stuck to what you've lived up to this point. There are possibilities you haven't considered yet, and they are beginning to open as your mind is adjusted to what I am releasing. I am also touching the way you handle time. There was a weight that exhausted you. A sequence of days where it felt like nothing changed. This created a relationship with time marked by doubt, by distrust, by the feeling that things always take longer than they should. This affected your expectations, your hope, your willingness to believe again. Now I am restoring that, not by accelerating everything in a chaotic way, but by aligning time with purpose. There are things that couldn't happen before. Not for lack of power, but for lack of alignment. Now that alignment is starting to happen, and with it comes a change in how you perceive what is to come. You start to feel that there is movement, even if it's subtle. You start to realize that something is being prepared. That perception changes your posture. You stop just waiting and start walking with the awareness that something is already in progress. There is a specific area of your life that you no longer knew how to resolve. Something you tried in different ways, thought of various possibilities, but nothing brought a lasting result. This generated a type of wear and tear that made you distance yourself emotionally from that situation as a way to avoid further frustration. Today, I am telling you that I am entering that exact area, not to repeat what has already been tried, but to do it in a way you couldn't. There are things that don't respond to your strength, your logic, or your effort. They respond to my intervention. That is what is happening now. I am accessing paths you didn't see. I'm opening possibilities you didn't consider. You will notice that what seemed like a dead end is starting to show signs of change, not in a sudden, disorganized way, but consistently, like something that has finally found the right direction. While this happens, I am also teaching you to let go of control in areas where you tried to guarantee results on your own. That control was an attempt to avoid pain, loss, and frustration, but it also became a weight that wore you down more than it helped. Now I'm inviting you to trust in a different way, not as someone who ignores reality, but as someone who understands they don't need to control everything for things to happen. I am ahead of situations you cannot reach. The more you try to hold on to everything, the harder it becomes to notice what I'm doing. That is why I am easing your grip. I am taking away the need for you to sustain what was never placed under your responsibility. This will bring a kind of rest you haven't experienced in a long time. Not a rest from the absence of problems, but the rest of knowing you are not alone in managing it all. You will also start to notice changes in how some people position themselves around you. Attitudes that were once rigid will start to soften. Behaviors that seemed fixed will start to change. This isn't a coincidence. It's the result of an action that doesn't depend only on you. I'm working in environments where you have no access. I'm touching hearts you cannot convince. I'm adjusting relationships that were misaligned. This will generate responses you didn't expect. When I enter a situation, I don't just treat one side. I reorganize the whole. This includes people, contexts, and decisions. You will notice things starting to flow more lightly, more naturally, as if what was once stuck is being removed without direct effort on your part. There is also a healing happening at a deeper level, something not just linked to the present, but to experiences you've carried over time. Marks that influenced how you react, how you trust, how you take a stand. Those marks didn't simply vanish with the passing years. They continued to act silently, shaping your choices and limiting your freedom in certain aspects. Today, I am reaching that place. Not to reopen wounds, but to close what was left incomplete, to restore what was affected, to bring a kind of freedom you haven't fully experienced yet. This healing won't just be emotional, it will be structural. It will change how you relate to what you live through. It will give you a different foundation to move forward, a firmer, safer foundation, less conditioned by what once hurt you. As all of this unfolds, you begin to enter a new kind of awareness, a clearer perception of what is happening inside and around you, a greater sensitivity to identify what makes sense and what no longer does. This will help you make decisions that are more aligned, more coherent with what is being built now. It's not just about changing what happens, but about adjusting how you participate in what happens. This is fundamental so that the new being released isn't compromised by old patterns. That is why I am leading you with care, with precision, without haste, but with clear direction, so that every step you take from here on is connected to what I am establishing. All of this marks the beginning of a new cycle. Not a cycle based on continuous effort and silent exhaustion, but a cycle where there is alignment, where there is response, where there is a balance between what you give and what you receive. You are still in the early moments of this transition. You are still noticing it bit by bit, but you are no longer in the same place as before. Something was activated, something was adjusted, something was repositioned. This completely changes what comes next. When the foundation changes, the path changes too. You will realize that even when facing challenges, you no longer feel the same way. You no longer react the same way. There is a new structure sustaining you. And that structure was established now, in this moment, as you listened and allowed me to enter, not just into your home, but into you. If this message has spoken to your heart, I invite you to be part of our mission to spread faith and hope. Subscribe to the channel now, leave your like, and share this message with those you love. Every gesture of yours can bring comfort and transformation to more lives. I really want to know how this word touched you, so write it in the comments. I will read every single one, and I will be praying for you and your family. Let's light up the world together with the Word of God. See you soon, and may God bless you. If this word touched your heart today, know that you can help this message reach other lives. Amen.